Hello, everyone. My name is Marsh, and this is the episode 15 of our book club live stream. So, we're going to be going over the finale of Memories of Ice. I'll just be honest up front here. I took notes for the first chapter of it, and then the rest of it I didn't take notes because a battle started for like 70 pages. And when it comes to the battles in Malazan, I have no clue what's going on, so I didn't even want to attempt taking notes for it. So, we'll just talk about all the things that happened and have fun with it. So, it might be a little shorter because of that, but that's no problem. We'll just have fun and enjoy it as it goes. Okay, so starting out, we are starting with chapter 23, page 728. So in chapter 3, we had Perrin and the Bridge Burners. They're around the first city on their way to Coral, and they're scouting things out. Everything's been destroyed, there's nothing really there left of the city. Perrin tells the Bridge Burners that they will go straight to Maverick instead of, or straight through Maverick and to Coral instead of going to Maverick, given the situation. This worries them because they don't have enough munitions and supplies to really go through that many battles if they need to. And that obviously comes up later with different issues and not being able to handle certain things and being able to defeat certain enemies when you need certain supplies and stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty vital when it comes to the final battle of this book. So, anyways, they don't have enough munitions. Perrin tells them that they're going to press on anyways. And basically, um, Twist then approaches them as well. And Twist like tells him that he has a shoulder injury that I guess got an infection. So he's slowly dying, and he's going to die. And so he basically talks with Perrin about the separation of the Barghast and the Moranth, gives them the background story of like how that happened exactly, and how like the main difference I guess was the Barghast were wanting to seek out like the Tistiador or help the Tistiador, or sorry, the Moranth wanted to seek out the Tistiador, and others didn't when it came to that. So after this talk he has with Twist, they separate, and he wishes him well, and it's just like very solemn. We're getting a lot of like goodbyes and like final moments with characters, and we'll see why obviously coming up, but there's a lot of like those moments where it's like two characters just contemplating what's going to happen and dealing with it and having to get on with their lives and just wishing the best for each other despite the grim circumstances that are ahead. So we cut forward, and then Krupp is riding on his mule. He runs into Hitan and Kafal. They ask him about the observations he has of the Malazan army, but instead it sounds like he's just trying to like flirt with Hitan, and this is like where the kind of their like relationship starts. I guess they kind of have a thing, but kind of don't. It's a little unclear. Or I think she like tried to be with him one night, and then he's like, he I don't know. She did it to like shut him up, from what we'll see later. It's a little weird. Anyways, after that we get Whiskey Jack, and he talks to the two girls that were guarding Silver Fox, and orders them to stay with his command. Dujek then arrives, and the two talk about the current circumstances. They discuss the adjunct, the whirlwind, and everything going on in Rariku. And then they also like talk about how Dujek talks about how he may die in Coral. So, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of goodbyes and like grim premonitions that are happening here. And so, like after that, there is a part of a conversation where he tries to convince Whiskey Jack to not retire as well. Whiskey Jack saying, "After this battle, I want to retire. I'm done with fighting. I don't want to do it anymore." And he just wants to go off and hide away with Corlot. And that's not really a reality he has, or can a privilege he has in this situation, because he knows Lacine's going to come after him if he tries to retire. He doesn't have a choice and kill him because he's the only threat to her rule, basically. But then at the same time, she needs him as a commander because he's a good commander. So it's like a double whammy of, well, you're not going to die, and I'm going to keep you around, so you're screwed no matter what, kind of thing. Um, this is also like premonition. Whenever they start giving like happy ending scenarios to characters, you know it's not going to happen most of the time. It's like a common trope when it comes to television and multiple things. Whenever the character's like, "Oh, I'm just so happy I'm finally gonna see my family," blah blah blah. Well, you're gonna die in the next battle. That's what that means. And as we saw, that happened with Whiskey Jack. I don't even like. I guess that's the part where everyone was talking about. They're like, "Oh, this book is gonna crush you. You're gonna be so depressed because Whiskey Jack and the Bridge Burners died." I was like, it. I almost didn't have a reaction to it when it happened because it was so quick and visceral in the moment that I was like, "What just happened? Did I read that?" Like he literally just broke his leg and then gets stabbed through the chest and then he's just dead. Like in within the span of a page, there was no dramatic build up or anything. It just happened, and I was like, "Okay." And I couldn't really like. I had to finish reading the rest of the book, and so I was like, I was like, I couldn't compartmentalize it. Like I didn't have a breakdown and cry like some people said they do. I don't know if that's the part they were crying at, but I was just like, well, I can't. I don't know. Like I can't. I don't have a reaction at all. It just like happened. I was like, whoa, okay, it is what it is, I guess. Um, but anyways, going back to like the talk that Whiskey Jack and Dude Jack are having, they're just talking about retirement and like their plan and everything. And we'll get to the death scene when it happens because that happened a lot in this section. Um, cut forward, we get Perrin and the Bridge Burners. They're flying with the Moranth, and they spot carry on or like dead bodies that are rotting. So basically, it's a dead body of a Tistador. The group is speculating why it's there, but they're unsure. Perrin then separates himself from the group and projects himself to different warrens like he did in the past when he saw Burn. He goes to one and encounters someone who warns him of the Tistador being poisoned and wanting to kill the Mother of Darkness. They also want Rake's help, but he's not available. Perrin then tries to travel to Rake, but he ends up in the sword and ends up speaking to Draconis, so he ends up in Dragnipur. Draconis tells him that he needs to get Rake to start using the sword and killing more people because they need more souls in their fight for the dark against chaos, or for their fight against chaos, basically. Um, and so the alternative and last resort is breaking the sword to release the souls and release Draconis. But as like those are the two options. You can either break the sword or keep killing more souls and imprisoning them on these chains and pulling the fight and being able to prevent the Chaos Gate from opening, I guess. From what I understood, there's a lot of like stuff that just goes over my head, so I'm probably wrong. um, Either way, though, Perrin needs to talk to Rake and figure out what's going on. Is like the gist of the situation, which we don't really get that in this book. Going forward, Perrin comes back from his like, I don't know, his astral projection, and he is worried. He says that the birds are searching for Rake and Moonspawn. So he's talking about like the condors and everything. And the great ravens don't even know what's happening either. Perrin believes that Moonspawn and Animate Rake have been lost. This is like a sentiment that a lot of people like are starting to give, like that Rake is gone. Like it's not a surprise that he showed up. I'm like, come on. There was no scene of him dying, no scene of him getting lost. Like he's not gone. If there's no body, then they're not dead. And so, like it is what it is. I was like, he's gonna show up. Like, and then going forward from that, Whiskey Jack, Krupp, Hatan, and Kafal are all talking. They see all the crows in the sky, and Krupp starts raving about the darkness and weird stuff, and I didn't really understand it. Didn't feel like taking notes on it either. Hatan threatens him to shut up, and she'll say that she'll do what she did to him last time, that shut him up for 2 days, and then Krupp is like, you didn't shut me up for 2 days, I just didn't talk because I didn't want to in those moments, and they're like having their little like lover spout, and then like Humbrol Tower's there, and he's like making fun of like Hatan for like what's going on there. And then going forward, Pickard's watching. We get cut forward to another scene. Pickard's watching the group, and Pickard's watching all the mages while they're traveling, and we get Toe's backstory. It's pretty weird. Toe's, I guess, has like similar to Spindle, who has like a vest of his mother hair. Toe's has like a vest of like Toes, and so I guess what happened is Toes was a necromancer, and like Toes became afraid of ghosts and thought ghosts were chasing after them. So the only way to stop ghosts from chasing after them was to cut off the toes of the dead bodies that the ghosts are coming from and wear them so that the ghosts avoid him. I was like, okay. And then I think he like sucks on them or kisses them or something like before battle. I'm just like, I didn't know someone could be weirder than Spindle. Good job. Okay. um, and then we cut to the next section, or sorry, in the same section, Mallet then approaches Picker to talk, and he tells her that he thinks Quickben and Perrin are up to something. Trots appears too, and he basically goes to like gather all the others. Next scene, we get High Marshal Straw uh, is introduced. This is like the Mots, where they're bringing in the Mots, which are the people who stole the table from the very beginning. So we're wrapping that around. So Itkovian's marching towards the back of Brood's army. This section consists of Grey Swords, Treach's crew, Stani, and Mots. So Itkovian talks to Stani and Gruntle about Buke and how people decided to carry their burdens. Like, for example, Itkovian's the shield anvil, and so he was literally made to carry burdens and struggles of other people on his shoulders. Um, and while they're doing this, they notice like a weird dude in the corner. They're like, "Who's that dude?" And he's like, "Yo, I'm High Marshal Straw of the Mots," and he's a strange-looking fellow with a really big nose, and he tells them about who the Mots are, how they're basically spies, and they have like Mott spies in every single camp, in the Malazan camp, Brood's camp, Grey Swords, etc. And I don't know why I'm yawning. I got plenty of sleep. They haven't been discovered despite all this. And like they're just weirdos. They're like really into. They talk about like the Bowl brothers and stuff like that. The Bowl brothers. And then like they have like all the trees, and they're like have like tree fetishes or something. Like they're obsessed with wood, not that kind of wood, but like physical wood. They're just a bunch of weirdos, and they're like apparently Brood's forgotten that they're even in his regiment and that they were spying for him because they're such like good spies and hiding in different situations. I'm like, okay, that's just strange. Okay, so after they find out all this, um, they tell him that he should report to Brood because he tells them that like the Malazans are flying like separate sections to Coral instead of like meeting up where they're supposed to. And so he's like, you should tell Brood. And he's like, I've been trying to tell Brood, but every time I go there, Calor interrupts things. Ugh, I don't know why I'm yawning. Sorry. Calor interrupts things, and he won't let him like talk to Brood at all. And so obviously, because Calor is like trying to finagle and change the situations, fuck Calor. Um, so we learn a bit more about the Mots, and then he leaves, and the Grey Swords march on. Ikovian, though, is questioning things, and he is wondering if they're prepared with, or if he's ready to not be the Shield Anvil. He's just not sure what to do with his life at this point, if that makes sense. Going forward, we get Whiskey Jack, Hatan, Tor, and they're all talking. Tor makes fun of Hatan because of the relationship with Krupp. After that, we get a scene where Corlot is on the shore contemplating things. She thinks about Rake possibly being gone and the possible Malazan betrayal up ahead as well. And Whiskey Jack not being able to retrieve her and persuading him to join her side. She then notices Whiskey Jack, Tor, and 4,000 men on barges. They are separated from Dujek, who goes straight to Coral. Whiskey Jack tells Brood, Calor, and Corlot Dujek's plan to use the bridge burners and to get intel on the fight before the enemy expects it. He gives Brood his options, and he can take the barges out and get to Coral in 5 days, or he can spend 8 days on foot. Calor convinces Brood to spend 8 days on foot, and the Tistiandi, Corlot offers Tistiandi to go on the barges, and she says, just trust us, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, she wants to reunite with Whiskey Jack as well. That's obviously another motive when it comes to it. So they do that. He agrees, and so after it happens, he's like, "I think I may have made the wrong decision." Obviously, he did. Um, and so Calor is obviously being like a deceiver and controlling things to get his way, as we see later. Little rat. um, After that, we get a scene with Ikovian and Gruntle. They're watching the barges with the Mott guy, the Sty of Mott, or whatever his name is. Uh, the Mott guy is, I don't know what I wrote. Oh, yeah, he's obsessed with wood. That's what I wrote. And with the Malazan table and stuff. Uh, During all of this, like, situation, though, there's kind of a ruckus going on. And then, like, someone punches a guy like in the face with the dart, like a Daru guy punches someone in the face. I don't know what happened here in this situation. I just didn't understand it. So we're going forward. Um, okay. So Whiskey is watching over things and talking about each bringing a new issue every day. There's a new thing, new problem that comes up, and I mean that's just like war as it is, because war never changes. He mentions that Corlad is being different now that she has taken command, and the Tistiandi are tired because they have been spending basically their whole time going in and out of the warrens, cleansing them, and trying to use them as much as possible to keep them as clean as possible for the fight. So they're just like draining their resources before the fight so that they don't get poisoned, but it's tiring them out at the same time. So it's a double whammy. He also mentions that he believes Rake will be at Coral because he told him that he would be, and so we trust him. After that, Calor goes to Brood and is asking to join Whiskey Jack and Corlad. Brood grants him permission to do this, and like the little rat he is, he goes off to join them so he can obviously get his chance. I think I wrote, I'm like, he's a rat cooking in the kitchen, but he ain't no Remy from Ratatouille, Remy the rat or mouse. After that, we get a scene with Envy, Tog, Gareth, Boljag, and the Segula, and they're just traveling basically. Boljag is injured, but he's refusing to get help from Envy, and then Tog is basically talks about like spotting some creatures up ahead, and then the crew like presses on. Nothing much happened there with that. And then we go back to Perrin and his crew. They're near Coral, and so they spot a unit of Panion, and so Perrin starts giving orders for the plan to eliminate all of them, because if they can injure the Seer Doman and distract them, the other armies can come in and help, and hopefully Dujek can show up. So due to this, he sends Spindle, Toes, and Picker, and like gives them their own like separate orders, and then he also readies Quick Bend for the encounter. And at the end of the chapter, the attack starts. They kill like the mage in the unit by like drowning him internally. I guess that's kind of the gist I got of it. They like kept all the fluid in him, like to drown him. I don't know. It was pretty brutal. And then Perrin gets the report that Dujek and his forces have finally arrived. Yeah, this is like almost where I stopped taking notes. So I got a little more, and then it's like we'll just talk about the events and what happened. This will be a short one. I don't feel like wasting your time, and I don't know. It's Saturday. I want to relax. Anyways, chapter 24. In the Temple of Hood, Cole notices Ruth Tog, Ruth Fenderley, Wrathhood, and he talks to Wrathhood about people spying on him, and when he wants to enter the altar once more, the Wrathhood, that is, Cole knocks him out. He's like, no, you can't go in there, because he's trying to protect the Maib, obviously, and Murillo. So he punches him. He goes in. Murillo, who is just like sitting there on the altar. We then cut forward and we see the Seer, who the Seer marched 25 to 30,000 soldiers out from to attack Perrin, and they basically dropped like a bear. The Perrin and all of them, they're trapped like a bear in a cave. So they have their backs to their wall, and they can either escape or they can keep fighting. But before this, Perrin sends Blend to Dujek to talk. Quickben then sends the other mages off with their orders. Perrin, Dujek, and Blend approach 3 talk of their decisions. They can fight, kill half of them, and most likely die, allow Whiskey Jack to come in and clean things up, or they can blow up the tunnels, blocking the way, and escape and choose to fight another day. But Whiskey Jack and all of them won't really be able to do much because of that. So Blen approaches Quickben. So they agree that before Blen approaches Quickben, they all agree that they're going to fight to the death. They've decided it. They're going to go for their final stand and try to eliminate the Pantheon. So Blen approaches Quickben and then offers him a stone that she was carrying that apparently has been camouflaging her this whole time, sort of like a counter UAV. I don't know. It like makes it where people can't really lock onto her. And so obviously that's where her name Blen comes in, because she kind of like hides in the distance and can't really get shot and stuff. So because she has a literal magical stone around her neck. And so Quickben refuses it. He's like, "No, that's what makes you you, so I don't want that." Cut forward and we get Picker and Blen are watching the Seer Doman, and he's doing some sort of magic. Quick is up above their forces, like on like a mountain is what I viewed it as. And he summons 8 demons, but they're like illusions, which is still like impressive. Most people can't even summon 1 demon apparently. And basically the battle starts from here, and this is where I stopped taking notes because I was like, what the heck is going on? I'm not good at tracking the battle, so we're not going to do a step-by-step battle. Instead, what we're going to do from this point, I'm going to talk about each character, what happened with their story, where they ended up, and we'll go from there. And I'll just give you my impressions on it. So it'd be a little shorter that we're talking instead of going beat by beat, but there's just too much that happened and like too much confusion when it comes to like the battle. And so it's not like something that I fully understand. So the battle goes on from what I remember, and then like there's multiple different things that occur. Let's just get to the big one first. So when Whiskey Jack and his forces arrive, they're fighting. We'll just talk about it. Whiskey Jack dies. So Corlot is like in her dragon form, I think, and Calor basically finds this as his opportunity to kill Silver Fox, because Silver Fox shows up in the same room. And so Calor literally goes, hits Corlot and like knocks her out, and then he like knocks out Artanthos, which we find out is actually Tashrin. I was like, okay, that makes sense, because there was an earlier part where Dujek literally said Tashrin would apologize to you and he wants to tell you he's sorry and everything. And I'm like, how do you know Tashrin said that? Like, what communication are you having with Tashrin? How'd you know this? And he was like telling Whiskey Jack, he's like, yeah, Tashrin says that he messed up and he'd apologize to you directly if he could and stuff like that. And apparently he knew this because Tashrin's literally Artanthos pretending to be a Maranth. And so Calor takes out both of them. Doesn't kill them though, just like incapacitates them. And then he then goes to kill Silver Fox. Whiskey Jack steps in the way. And apparently what we learn, Whiskey Jack is a very skilled fighter. And so like the reason he exposed himself that way, he wouldn't have exposed himself apparently if he didn't have an opening. We learned that from Dujek, who was talking after Whiskey Jack's death about like him as a sword fighter, and like the bridge burners as well were talking about it. And so due to his messed up leg from book 1, when the marble like column fell on it, he plants his leg to go for an attack, like opening up like his weakness in his body, because he has an opening to kill Calor, and his leg breaks and he collapses and Calor stabs him through the chest, and then he's just dead instantly. And the only reaction we get is Corlot like staring at this horror. And then the 2 guards that were following Silver Fox, they go to like run in, they get brutalized even worse. Like one of them gets their head chopped off, the other one just gets like stabbed. Like I think they get like a slicing on Calor and like yellow blood comes out, but that's about it. And they just get like brutalized. And then Calor like kind of just like dips after that point. Oh no, Tashrin then like he risks his life because his warren's not clean, and so his face is like split, his warren's not clean, and he like attacks Calor with his warren, and Calor dips basically from there because of Tashrin. And I was like, first of all, I was like, Tatron? When did Tatron get here? I was like, what the fudge? And then it was just like crazy. And then uh, Whiskey Jack dead. As like I said before, I don't feel like they gave us time to react. It wasn't like I feel like I was sadder with Coltane because when Coltane died, there was like this build up, and you see the army and they're fighting, and then you get Coltane being tortured, and like they're putting him out of his misery. Like there's such the moments are so much longer and the suffering so much longer that like it hits you so much harder. This is just like how battle is, and it just like they just cut him down. I was like, oh, I guess that happened. Okay. So it didn't like hit me as hard as it was, and like I was just I was just like, what do we do now? I just felt bad for Corlott. Corlott from this point was like devastated and like understandable. That was her man. And they were talking about like retirement, and like even before this she had moments where she was like contemplating things, and she's like, I don't think we're gonna be able to retire. Maybe I can convince Whiskey Jack to join me to fight for the Tistiandi because we don't want to fight the Malazan after this and stuff like that. And so she was just like thinking excuse me, she was thinking of situations like to make up for like what's gonna happen. And so it's pretty sad when it comes to that stuff. But um yeah, so that happened. Other than that, we go like to the other characters. Let's just talk about like the bridge burners. Like 30 something bridge burners died. We only have like 4 of them left. Like Picker is alive. Trotz died. Hedge blew himself up. Trotz like smiled and died with like cuts everywhere. I think it was Blend died too. Um, Toes died. Like there's so many of them just died, and I was just like, whoa. I I didn't expect the bridge burners to die. I thought that they were gonna be something that's gonna like them and Whiskey Jack. I thought they're all gonna be relevant throughout all the books, and I'm like, where do we go from here? Like, what's going on? Because we have like a retirement that goes on with like the 4 bridge burners that live, and it's like, what's happening here? Like in the Daru house, they had a little happy ending in the bar, I guess, but but there's still crazy stuff going on at Rariku, and like I don't know, it's just crazy because like oh yeah, Spindle lived too. So Spindle, Picker, there's 2 others I can't remember that lived. Uh, oh, Mallet and obviously Quick Ben Perrin. Um, there's one other one, but oh yeah, Detorin died too. Um, oh, Ansi I think is the one that lived, or Ansi might have died. I need to double check that. Let me see. Just checking the book real quick. Yeah, Anti lived. That was the other one. Those Anti Spindle, Mallet, and Picker are the only ones that lived. And like that shit was brutal. They're like in the buildings and it's like collapsing on itself, like in the keep. Envy shows up during this and is like fighting with them and like convinces Picker to help them get talk. Uh, Speaking of talk, he has just been tortured to like an insane point to where his physical body is like no more. He can't even talk. He doesn't have a tongue. Tool comes to save him. And I was like, oh, Tool, like that's your brother. Like him and Talk had such a connection. Like, and it's so sad to see what happened with it. So Tool goes to save him, picks him up, takes his body out, while Envy's also trying to save him as well. And Tool does kind of end up saving him, but he like dies, and at the same time as the Mybe sort of like dying, but gets like eternal rest from Hood. So like Silver Fox created a warren within the Mybe for the Talani Moss and the Talani Eye to rest in. So sort of like a afterlife in the warren. So a lot of them were worried about like everything being futile, and when they die it's just a black abyss and nothing happens and they just like fall into nothingness. And so this warren Silver Fox created inside of the Mybe is like the solution to that. So the Mybe goes into an eternal sleep like Burn, and she won't need to suffer anymore. She can live normally in this like afterlife. She's still alive technically in the real world, but not really. And the Talani Moss and Talani I can go there as well. Tog and Fenderley are like reborn, I guess, um, through this with it is really confusing. I didn't fully understand it, but it was like the wolf gods through talk like dying activated something, and then through Itkovian who died, who basically carried the burdens of the Talani Moss so they can move on. And he's just like, I'll carry your burden. He just like goes down on his knees and he's just like taking in all their suffering until he literally dies from it. I was like, okay. So he died, Talk died, the Maib sort of died, and all three of them like culminated to have the two wolf god and goddesses meet again, I guess, reawaken the eye, and Silver Fox released them. They're free, and they're now living within the Maib. And then the regular Talani Moss are still under her control, but like later, their solution is after they complete a certain thing, they're gonna separate, from what I understand. So they're like, well, there's still trouble to the south. We need to do that, and then after we do that, we'll be good. So that's going on, and then there's just so much happening. You get like Brood and stuff. They're not really doing much like in this. They're just kind of like there. Um, Corlot is like trying to defend Orfontal, who's fighting, and then Moonspawn shows up while everyone's in the keep. Finally, they like show up to the storm, and they release like their Rake releases the Warren of Darkness on the city, and it literally just encapsulates the city in darkness. And then he basically uses the Moonspawn to crush down on the keep and destroy the keep and fight against the seer. And then when they're fighting against the seer, Tog's sister shows up and she wants to kill the seer, and Quickben and Perrin are there, and they're like, no, you can't kill the seer. Like, you can't do that. We have a plan. And so they jump on the seer and teleport him through a Warren, and Tog follows, and then they talk to the seer, and they're like, or they throw Talamondis on the steer, and he's like stuck in like a trap, and he's a Jackhoot, obviously. He's the Jackhoot from the beginning, the brother, because there was the brother and the sister that Tog actually released, and she thought she was sending them to Amto's Falak, when instead she sent the sister to basically heal the wound of the Warren without knowing. And so, like I said, there's a lot going on. Um, they make a deal with him. They're like, listen, we don't need to kill you. You have the Kachan Shamal maiden like egg contains your sister. We can awaken your sister. She'll be a child. You can help usher her and take care of her. You'll be her uncle, and you can like lead her to a good life. You'll be together again. The Tog won't kill you. Um, you can like live together in like a different area, blah blah blah, and be safe and move on from like this tragic past. And so he's like, Perrin is like, well, we can't just like tell him, release him, and we'll talk to him. And so they do that. Tog agrees. Tog is mad about it, but she understands. And the little like girl Jack who just like comes and jumps in his like arms and everything, and he kind of like is like healed in a way, the Panions here, and he's just like healed in the sense that like he's with his family again. So everything ties back in from the beginnings, which I realize now from like each book. I think each book's prologue has something prevalent to the entirety of the book itself. Like with Coltane and the March and like Felicine, Bowden, and all of them, they become important at the end. And then it like ties into Hood and everyone else, like when they're dying with the crosses and everything and all the crucifixes. And then like book one, I'm trying to remember the prologue. Oh yeah, it was the burning of the city, which we learn later is Tadoussail. That's the beginning of the Empire, Lysine's Empire. It's obviously still the Malazan Empire, or Lysine's rule. So like a lot of things going on. This one's literally with Calor, the three elder gods, and then you have the two brother and sister, the Talani Moss, like getting rid of, like getting sent in the Warren. So everything ties back into the future of like Malazan and is settled there. Now that I'm talking about as well. So that gets settled. They like do that. And then Envy at one point is talking to Rake again, and it's a weird little situation after the city is destroyed, where they're talking and they kind of like don't like each other, or Rake doesn't like her, but she's like fine with it, and like she obviously like has feelings for him, it seems like, but he doesn't. Um, and so they're talking about all that while everyone's having like their procession and with all the dead bodies and everything. And then what else did I want to mention? Oh yeah. We see Talk. He is like revived within a new body. So Annister, the child of Dead Seed, who was with the Grey Swords, Talk like takes over his body essentially. So his old body's dead, but now he has this new body through Annister. And so he's fully himself still, but he basically was rewarded for everything that happened to him to live on and be the mortal sword of the Grey Swords. And so he's now Annister, even though he's Talk. And then we get that same situation with Gruntle, where Gruntle's like, Gruntle died, but he was reawakened into his body to become Treach's mortal sword. And he just wants to be Gruntle, so he drops his thing. He's gonna refuse to fight for Treach anymore. He doesn't care. He drops like the armor that he got from Picker, who was like, or was it Blend? I think it was Blend. Um, and so like a lot happened, and then after the battle wraps up, we get to oh yeah, we also have Tool, who basically Tool's kind of the one that did that with Talk. So Tool, he turned into a human again, or he had mortal flesh, him and his sister, after all this, and they like walk away, and they meet up with like Hatan and Kefal at the end. So we'll see what happens with Tool and Tog. It's interesting. I kind of wish Tool like stayed with Talk, because like I really love them as a duo, but it's obviously not gonna happen. Um, yeah, a lot of like my mind's everywhere. There's so much that happened in this last chapter, but and then we after all this, like Tool and Tog leave. They go with Katan and Hitan and Kefal, and we get like the procession where they're burying the bridge burners, and Rake is like sad as well, and he wants to mourn, and so he like walks with is it Quick Ben? I think he's walking. Oh no, he walks with Picker. So he goes with Picker, and he's like, "We're friends today." Blah blah blah. Like, and Picker's like, "Well, I thought the allegiance was real and everything. I didn't know any better." He's like, "Well, then we're still allies as of today." Blah blah blah. And it's like a very touching moment. And he's like, "We're gonna bury them in Moonspawn. Moonspawn's not able to be used anymore. It is the city of the Tistiandi now, with coral that are it's enveloped in darkness." He's like, we're gonna bury them in the sarcophagus in Moonspawn. And they're like, "Okay, it's an honor." And they're like, "The bridge burners did always want to know what the inside of Moonspawn looked like." I'm kind of sad we don't really get to see it either. We do see it when Perrin and Quick Ben they go in there, and this is where we get like a little irk. I have a little complaint. Sorry, because I know it's a good book. Um, but they go in there, they look at all the bodies, and they see everyone buried, and it's like really depressing and sad, and because like the bridge burners are just dead. It's just a horrible situation. But they, when they're leaving, Parent says, "I bless all of you bridge burners," and like then light when they leave like just comes up. So I'm like, "Ah, oh, crap." Now that he blessed them, they're all gonna come back, aren't they? The reason I say "oh crap" is because like I know death works in a different way. We've had so many resurrections already in this, but like the more that it happens over and over, it's like the less I feel the need to worry about characters dying. Yeah, when some die, they're just dead, but I don't like the constant resurrection. So please don't resurrect them, because it's the same thing with Colton. Colton had like a hint of like being resurrected in future books with his soul being carried off and possibly reborn into another one, because that's the way the culture works. That's explained, but with Perrin blessing them, I'm like, please don't like do this. Please don't resurrect them. Just let them be in their sarcophagi and let's move on. So we'll see. I'm just worried about that, because the more and more you do that, the less impactful a death is in the series for main characters, if that makes sense. But that's what happens there. that's basically the end of the book. We get to Dujek talking to Perrin and all them. He says basically he doesn't want the bridge burners to die in another useless battle is what remains of the bridge burners. So he's sending them with the Terrigal Trade Company to Daru. Their mission is to protect someone. They don't really say who, and work with Baruch. And in return, they get like a bunch of gold, and they're gonna pronounce them as missing, and that they don't know what happened to them, and that they died. So it's their chance of retirement. And so Picker and Blen purchase an inn in Krill's Temple, and no one visits it because Krill's Temple or Belfry is like haunted, and people are worried about that, so no one's gonna visit them. But they just have a drink at the end, and Perrin at one point he like goes into the dead house there, and he's talking to Raced, and he's like, "Yo, Raced, what do we do about like this and that?" And he's like, "You need some house cleaning. You need to start like keeping this place up." And he's like, okay. He's like, "I'm gonna help you out, yo, Perrin. I'm gonna help you out." And then he's like, "Well, what do I do with these like eternally sleeping dead bodies?" And I was like, "Huh, what do we do with those?" And then I look at it, and I was like, "Wait, so is that not Callum, the assassin guy from the first book, Rallick? Is that Rallick and the girl in that one?" But they also mentioned like the like Emperor's daughter or something like in another dead house that's asleep. So what if she's just like in a permanent sleep, like Burn, in that kind of situation? There's a warrant inside of her. Just a thought. But yeah, that happens and it closes out and it's the end of Memories of Ice. I liked it. I don't know if I liked it more than Dead House Gates. I feel like I liked throughout the book more than Dead House Gates, but the ending of Dead House Gates is just so like intense and crazy. It's hard to beat that ending. And I was expecting something like that ending. It was still like great, but like it wasn't like the ending is better in Dead House Gates, but the entirety of the book is better in Memories of Ice. You're just more with it the whole time. Kaputson is insane. I probably like that battle section more than the final battle, the battle we get with Kaputson. I'm excited going forward. We'll see what House of Chains I think it is the next one. Let me check. Yeah, House of Chains is the next one. We'll see what happens with that going forward. Other than that, though, it was fun. I'm excited to see what happens. I guess the only people we didn't really talk about much was Silver Fox. Not much happened with her. She kind of just like released the Talani Eye. Fell into a depression because her mom is like gone forever in a like permanent sleep and was just complaining about like being left alone. And then the Talani monster like, "We'll do one more mission for you," and that's it. So we kind of talked about it. But yeah, that was Memories of Ice. Pretty crazy. I think the ice thing is Amtos Falak because it's the Ice Worn. So the memories of that, because when they reopen it and the Jack who go in there. So yeah, um, thank you for watching though. I'm excited for the future stuff. Other than that though, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And I'll see y'all later. Bye bye.